God can take your mess and turn it into a ministry. God can take your mess and turn it into a ministry. God can take your mess and turn it into a ministry. Turn it over to God. Use you. Just turn it over to God. Use you.
So we have a total of 2 services. So the first service just lit out from 8:45, and now we're going to Sunday school that starts at 10, second service at 11.
Today, we're going to think about mission locally through the lens of work, okay? And thinking about work as an arena of mission. So as we go to our various lines of work, how do we live out that mission? So a few things that Wilson wanted me to emphasize to think about. First of all, really important that we not think of work as merely an obligation. Okay, work is an opportunity really to live out that mission. Work has the potential to be a place where we can live on mission in both word and in deed. And also one of the best ways to reimagine our work is to hear from others. So we're going to have a kind of a panel today, and I'm going to invite them up at this time. We got 3 of you that are coming, so y'all come out. Scott, Amber, and Meg. Does anybody know off the top of your head what connects me and Scott and Amber and Meg?
Teaching.
Educators, right? Educators, okay? The few, the proud. So I'm pretty excited about this group today because the 4 of us have a pretty varied set of experiences in education, and so we're gonna go through a few things, have them kind of respond to some questions and some ways we think about living out our mission at work. In particular, we're going to use education as a context. So first, I'm going to have each one of them, we'll start here with Megan, if you would just introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, tell us where you work, and what is your specific role there. And maybe give us a little bit of history about your background, your work experience in education.
I'm Megan Doak. I'm originally from Madison, Alabama. Been in Lebanon for 6 years. I teach at Winfrey Bryant, right in the back door. I have been there, this fall will be my 7th year at Winfrey Bryant. For 5 years, I taught 7th grade math there. Last year, after we had our daughter Molly, I switched to special ed and went part-time. So I job shared and worked part-time last year. I will continue to do that this year until our twins get here, in which case I will transition to stay at home full-time, because that's terrifying.
By terrifying, she means she's really excited.
Also that. So I'm Amber, and I grew up in Lebanon. I work at Mount Juliet High School. I've been there since I got out of college, which would make this like year 11 maybe for me. I was a classroom teacher at Mount Juliet High School for 6 years, and I taught Bible, AP US History, and Honors US History. And yes, that's Bible in public school. That's actually what I was hired to teach right out of college, so I got to work in developing that class and helping that be in like other districts. And then recently I transitioned into administration, and I'm now an assistant principal, so I work with teachers and discipline and such.
I'm Scott. I'm originally from Arkansas, moved to Middle Tennessee in 2009. Emily's from Murfreesboro, which brought us back to this area. She had all of Arkansas saying. We taught, we were both high school English teachers. We taught there for 4 or 5 years, and moved here in 2009, and I got a job teaching at Mount Juliet High School, and then became an assistant principal there. And now I'm the head principal at Lebanon High School.
All right, so I am Michael Pigg. I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. Lived there the first 18 years of my life. Left with no plans to return. I went to Lipscomb from undergrad, went to UT for graduate school. I was a high school math teacher. I taught the college level for a little while too, but I was a high school math teacher. And then in 2011, we moved here to Lebanon, my wife Stephanie and I. So I became assistant principal at Watertown Elementary School, and I was there for 3 years. Then for the next 3 years, I was head principal of Watertown Middle School, and I just recently transferred over to Castle Heights Elementary School here in Lebanon to become principal. I'm about to get started. So that's who we are. I want to pray over us before we start the conversation, then we'll get into our discussion. So let's pray. Father, I'm grateful that you bring us here. I just pray your blessing on myself and on our panel. We just want to encourage today, Father. We're looking at the avenue of work and thinking about how we can live on mission and live out the mission of Jesus as we go about our day at work each day. Let us be your light, let us be your vessels, and help us, Father, to carry out your kingdom, to bring your kingdom as we go to work each day. Help us to encourage every person here this morning in that effort. And I just ask your blessing, your spirit to be on us through our conversation today. It's in Jesus we pray. Amen. All right, so we're going to start going through these questions. I'm going to start with Megan and ask you the question. Excuse me. How do you view your work as a classroom teacher? And you're also a coach, too. Did you mention that?
I did not.
She's a volleyball coach. She's a very good volleyball coach. As a teacher and a coach, how do you see your work as an opportunity to be on mission?
I have always felt called to be a teacher. I just didn't ever really consider being anything else. To me, it didn't feel real until I was in the classroom with the kids and realized that a lot of the kids that we serve, just their home life isn't anything like what mine was. And I grew up in this bubble that I didn't even realize I was in until I saw that I had the opportunity to kind of smooth some rough edges for some people. And that's when my work really started to feel like mission, when I thought I can make a difference here, even just in some little ways. To kids, at least, that's a big deal.
So has that kind of evolved over the years, or did you have somebody that influenced you in a particular way
So,
toward that?
ironically, I think I started feeling like that because of a missed opportunity that I became very aware of, actually with a coworker that I only worked with for a very short amount of time. We were very different from start to finish, probably in how we lived our outside of work life. We were very different in how we handled the classroom, how we interacted with students, and I retreated in that, stayed away, did not engage, just minimal, whatever it took to work together. And then she's no longer in education, which is best for everybody. But I was very aware that because of how different our lives were, very unlikely that our paths will ever cross again. And I was very overwhelmed with, I missed it. That was it. And I sat back, consumed in myself, trying to preserve myself, and I missed it. So I think that missed opportunity helped me try to take advantage of more in the future with the kids and with coworkers also, but obviously more with the kids.
You mean missed opportunity in what way? What did you like?
I wonder if she would even, if you ran into her right now, if she would say, yeah, there was something different about
Gotcha.
because I stayed to myself so much, I don't even think I lived missionally enough with her and around her to make her even question that there was, much less be bold and say something bold to her about Jesus. And of course, in the public school realm, there's all this, you have to be careful what you do and what you can. I cross that line probably a lot more than I should with my kids, but they know I love them and it's okay.
Sure.
So I try now very purposefully to find opportunities so that I don't continue to live with guilt of missing them.
Sure. Amber, what about you? How do you view work as a mission?
So for me, that's something that's been kind of long-standing. Like Megan said, I knew that I wanted to teach pretty much my whole life, and that really solidified for me in high school that I viewed that as really formative years where people decide what they're going to go do in college and what their skill set is. And for me, I was really passionate about that age in particular because I saw a lot of my friends make choices that I was like, dude, this is not best for you. You're not good at math and you want to be an engineer? Like, come on. So that's part of the reason that I wanted to teach, because I feel like God has blessed everybody with a skill set, and I wanted to help kids find that. And I also thought that I was going to go teach in the inner city and live in a way different area than what I do right now, because Mount Juliet's about as non-inner city as you can get. So that was like my dream, my mission. That's what I was going to do, and God had very different plans for what my career path would look like. Like I said, I was hired to teach Bible in a public school, so for me, that was pretty tangible because I taught about Jesus every single day. So I really felt like that was a hardcore mission, and we expanded that to a lot of other schools outside of our district, and that was really cool to get to work with different teachers and see them minister to people. However, I don't do that now. I am in administration. That was a really hard change for me as far as like living on mission, because it was something I was passionate about, and I knew that I was called to teach, but I felt like I just kept shutting doors in God's face that He was opening as far as transitioning into something else. And I'm in, I guess, year 3 now in administration, and now I'm kind of starting to see, oh, this is why you needed to do this. It took me a long time to really get a grip on what my ministry would look like in administration, because it's not the same. Like, we don't talk about the gospel and, what the creation story really means or what words are in Hebrew. Like, that's not
We all know.
well,
There's a little rivalry.
So anyway, I felt like at the time I switched that my mission was a lot less tangible than what it was previously. But now I feel like I work with kids in their darkest times, when you do like discipline and a really good kid who's never been in trouble gets caught with weed, and now that's zero tolerance, and you're going to alternative school. Like, kids need somebody that can be supportive like during those times. And honestly, I didn't know that's something that I would enjoy. I thought the discipline piece of my job would be something I hated, but it's actually now what I feel like is one of the biggest pieces of how I'm able to reach out to kids and parents and things like that.
Now, but you come from a family of educators, right?
Yes.
Administrators. So I'm sure that shaped you. I would assume it shaped you quite a bit, right?
It definitely did. I don't think it was the only thing. But both my parents are educators. My dad was a lifetime coach and then got really sick and ended up in administration because the doctor said, hey, you're going to die if you keep coaching. He's rather intense if you've ever met him. And then my mom is literally got the biggest servant heart of just about anyone I've ever met. And she is a lifetime educator now in administration, well, it's central office. But anyway, they really raised my brother and I to view our work as service and to use our skills to serve other people. So from the time I was little, that was just something kind of ingrained in us. And I don't have a super great skill set for other things. So teaching was kind of like, yeah, she needs to do that. Pass out if I see blood and stuff. Medical's not going to work for me. So, yeah, they definitely were big in impacting what I decided to do.
Scott, how do you see your work as a mission?
It's really changed. As a teacher, most of your interaction is with kids or children, and that's, to me, was the easiest spot to see how you are on mission all the time. You're a huge influence. You have a profound influence on kids when you're in the classroom with them. And then getting in as an assistant principal, it started to change, and now as a principal, I feel like it's very different because most of my interaction is with adults, which is a little tricky and is not, you don't typically get into education because you want to work with adults. You get into it because you want to work with kids. And so it's something that you do want to do, but there's quite an adjustment there. And I'll be honest, I like kids a lot more than I like adults. But when you realize that the way I started realizing I had an impact on, started to have that different impact was when the grown-ups in my building started coming in and confiding in me and telling me things about themselves and needing guidance. And I was like, I've never been that person. I'm usually younger than them, and it's weird for me for them to come sit down and to say, like, I'm really struggling with this. It may be personal, it may be professional, and I've learned that how I react to that, that is a small, quick window of opportunity to say something meaningful and influential, and it's right there. And we talked about this in our life group. I wish I was the kind of person, I'm going to get here, but it's just a little out of my comfort zone. I wish I offered to pray with that person right then. But that's a shortcoming of mine, and I would love to be there one day. And the reason that I saw a boss of mine, who's Amber's boss, Mel Brown, is one of the best administrators, Christian men that I've ever known. And he had a profound influence on me. And he would pray with me. And he knew where he stood. And he was extremely, just a great man. And so those opportunities I see are ways for me to be intentional about what my purpose is with more than just children. I interact with kids, but I don't spend enough time with them to have a deep impact on them. I find ways to sneak in some good influence. But I mean, most of my communication goes out to faculty members and to parents and the community. I do a lot of work with the community, and I feel like as a figurehead for my school, and also that's a huge opportunity to find ways to also be a Christian figurehead. When I send out a call-out message to the community, it's going to thousands of people at that time, and just little things, even things that I just have to be super aware of. Messages I send out, I know this is silly, but things I tweet, all of those things, there are literally like thousands of people looking at them at my level. I interact with thousands of people every day. And so while sometimes it's hard to always be maybe like what we think of as like explicitly missional, I try, how am I going to be encouraging? How am I going to be positive or uplifting or all of that? Because that how I interact with people, that has an impact on those things for those people.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I think the thing that stands out to me as a principal is, so how many students go to your school? 2,000 students. Right? That's a small town. Right, that's a city. Right, I mean, he has a tremendous impact. So that sticks out to me as being a principal. You feel like you're in charge of like this small village of people, and really almost every decision you make is pretty intensely analyzed to how it's going to impact. In my case, about 700 different students and their families, and so it just makes you very thoughtful about those decisions. Yeah, even the small things matter. Very, very much so. Good stuff. So let's come back to Megan. Let me ask you this. Talk about maybe some specific ways, and each of you will answer this question, that maybe you're intentional about trying to be on mission at work. Are there certain practices or habits that you implement, or can I speak to that?
I'm not an administrator. So I do work with children who are easier to work with than the other. But for me, it's relationships. That this past year, I was open to a whole new world, being out of the traditional classroom and working with special ed kids. For those of you who don't know, like kind of what that looks like, I'm just an assistant. Which is so lovely. You take nothing home. It's great. So I just like have my little caseload of 7th grade special ed kids, and I just did 7th grade with them. They went to math, I went to math. They went to language, I went to language. And so I was just their support. So to me, the relationship piece is so huge. And being out of the traditional classroom last year took a lot of the pressure and stress that comes with any job. But in education, you're in charge of so many students. When I knocked that down last year to like 10, it was amazing, the relationships that I got to form with them. So for me, that's what I try to kind of hang on to. That's what continues to encourage me. I keep notes that kids have written me, and when they accidentally call you mom and stuff, you just feel like, okay, I'm consistent. They're feeling that that they need. So the relationship is what I try to hang on to. And kids are open books. They'll tell you way more than you want to know. I've stopped several of them. Like, if this conversation continues, I'm going to have to call somebody that I don't want to call. Stop talking. But just being able to, and being vulnerable with them. They know when I'm having a bad day, whether I tell them or not. So I might as well just be open and tell them. So that's the relationship piece is what I try to hang on to.
Yeah, that's real. I've had students in my office that say, please, Mr. Big, don't call parents. Just save yourself. Let's just work this out. And I say, yeah, you probably know better than I do. So but that's right. I mean, they have some really tough circumstances. Amber, what about you? Specific ways, practices, maybe even reminders you give yourself?
Yeah, so for me, now that I've switched to administration, like I said, everything is kind of less teachable because before you're interacting with the same kids every day, like you know who's coming, you know what's up in their life, like, you know, you're just very involved with those particular kids. And in administration, you never know who or what you're going to see that day, whether it's teachers, kids, like literally you can have no agenda, no expectation of what's coming your way. So one of the things I do to help me stay focused, because kind of like Scott said, a lot of your mission when you switch to that side and are working more with adults is the way you choose to interact with people, whether it's adults, kids, whatever. So for me, every day after, unless there's like, you know, a fight or something crazy, and that's not a possibility, every day after morning announcements, once we finish like our commons duty, like call duty or whatever, I just go in my office for 10 minutes, shut the door, pray and do a short devotional because it helps me get grounded because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and it's easy for me to lose myself in the work and in what has to happen and neglect that there are humans that I need to interact with in a positive way. I'm a little bit cold-hearted in that respect, I guess. So for me, it's very good to start my day at work in a grounding practice that reminds me this is really why I'm here. This is really what it's about. I also on my desk have a Mother Teresa quote that says, let no one ever come to you without leaving better and happier, be the living expression of God's kindness, kindness in your face, kindness in your eyes, kindness in your smile. I by no means do that well. That's my face and expressions and temper are a bit of a problem of mine. So when you're interacting with kids who might be very hostile and very angry and like legit just dog cuss you to your face, that's a positive reminder sometimes that, you know, hey Amber, take a deep breath. You know, you're not here to be angry. Let them vent, you know. So for me, that's helpful to have something that I can see like right there. And then on those days when I don't do that well, that's a reminder that you got to get this together. You know, you got to do better than that tomorrow. That clearly was unacceptable. So for me, that's helpful to have it in my face.
Sure.
For me personally, to like reminders, the couple things I've done in the past year or plan to do, I would say even that I don't do yet, are, you know, I keep the art block from retreat on a shelf in front of my desk so I can see it all the time as a reminder of being hospitable, which we talked about on retreat. I'll tell you something that I plan to do is Wednesday night there was here at church where a speaker was really good, talked about the power of encouragement. And talked about Barnabas and how his name meant son of encouragement. And so I just want to take something that says be Barnabas and take that to my desk or tape it to the wall in front of my desk as a reminder, because I feel like that's one of the easiest, most tangible things I can do is just to, no matter how you're reacting to or what somebody has done that you're reacting to, the ability to still encourage can be very powerful, and that was great to hear on Wednesday night. I'll tell you some small things I do with my faculty and my student body that it's not really sneaking. It's very obvious. We opened graduation with a prayer this year, and I closed it with a Bible verse. And until I get threatened or chastised, then we will continue to do that. We open faculty meetings with a prayer. And when Emma Kate Hall is your student body president, that's very easy because she and I can kind of collude over here on what we're going to do, and then she kind of makes it happen. If you know her, she's an excellent student, and
She doesn't make it happen.
yeah. So I got to sneakily make sure the student vice president is always like somebody I can do that with.
Yeah, we can make that.
So those are little things I know you're not supposed to, or we're not to proselytize in our positions, but I don't want anyone to ever wonder if I'm a Christian. I don't want them to have to say, "Do you think he is?" I mean, he's a nice guy, but sometimes it doesn't mean everything. So I like to think that if you can open up the faculty meeting with a prayer, then they don't have a doubt. And there's some other things that I wish I did more of, and I'm always working on. But those are little things.
I had a guy, a principal that I admire, he said to me 7, 8, 9 years ago, he said, as government officials, right, for all intents and purposes we are, you have to balance we the people versus I'm ultimately serving Jesus, right? Okay, so how do I balance those two concepts and my ultimate allegiance? So decisions like that become really important. I'll tell you something I do, and this is something that anybody in education will tell you is a good practice to do. Really good teachers will make positive phone calls every week, right? Because historically, when you hear from school, that means there's probably a problem, right, with your child. So being really intentional about making I just wanted to let you know. I know you're on Friday afternoon at work. Johnny had a great week this week. I'm so proud of him. He made a ton of progress. So I actually took that practice on as a principal to do positive phone calls at the end of every week. It's a good way to end a Friday, end a long week, just make a positive conversation. And I would ask a teacher for a name. Hey, give me a name of a kid who maybe had a hard time 6 weeks ago, but now he's really pushing through and doing a good job, making a lot of progress. And so I also like to check on new students too, call their parents, say, now I have smaller schools, so it's harder in some of the bigger schools, but when I was in Watertown, being a small school, a new student kind of stands out, right? And that can be a pretty intimidating environment when all the other kids have gone to school together since they were kindergarten. And so being able to check on those and just being sensitive to that. I'll answer this last question first, and then I'll go to y'all. The question is, what are some challenges you find of being on mission at work? My challenge as a principal is too often I have a real broad scope view, okay? And I'm not as attuned to individual needs as I should be. Again, that's the challenge of being in charge of a small city, all right? In any job where you are effectively managing hundreds and hundreds of people, I describe it to parents that parents will come in and they are hot over something, something happened. And I tell them, I understand I'm trying to say I understand what you're going through, but you got to understand, like if it was my child, like everything with my child card is a big deal, right? Every single thing that happened to him is a huge deal, okay? When I became a teacher, everything that happened within the walls of my classroom was a big deal, but there are 30 kids in there, right? Or maybe I see 100 kids throughout the day. When I become an assistant principal, yes, like issues are important, but I have now 120 teachers and 2,000 students, and so I just have much more of a broad scope view. So individual issues, it's hard to really tap into that. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? So forcing myself when somebody, if I'm in the middle of a hectic day and I get, we get interruptions, all the time. But being able to honor that issue and be able to say, you know what, you're a parent just like I am. And I understand why this would really, really bother you. So let's sit around this table, let's figure this thing out. And so that's a challenge for me. I'm also I'm a numbers guy, I'm a bottom line guy, results, okay? In education right now, the context, we're very data centric, very data oriented. And we have to find a balance between making sure our achievement numbers are really good and also our relationships are really healthy. I mean, that's a balancing act. So that's a challenge that I face. Bless you.
Kind of like what Amber was saying, I can be very task oriented, and same thing with coaching. It's hard to to remember that these are kids with a very different view of reality than mine is, a very different set of experiences than mine was. I teach middle school, so also hormones are
A lot of them, yeah.
pretty intense. So the kid you taught yesterday comes right back in the exact same stuff, and it's a totally different kid. But the task, it's hard for me to remember winning this game isn't the big picture. I had one season where I took that too far the other way, and I got in a little bit of trouble from some parents that didn't feel like I was trying to win hard enough. I was like, I'm teaching them such life things. Balance. But same thing with the kids, and that was harder when I was in the traditional classroom than it is now in the special ed world. I have to answer to these people, and you do still have a job to do. I have things that I have to teach, and there's tests that measure that, and there's data that these guys have to sit and talk to me about, whether or not I met it or not. So the task-oriented can be hard to remember. You're a kid. You're a kid in front of me who goes home to I don't even want to think about what. So to me, that's a challenge. I know that's with any job, to get task-oriented and forget that people are people with feelings and disappointments too.
Great point. Amber, what you?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same lines as you two. That because I'm very like perfectionist, big picture kind of thing, sometimes it's hard for me to remember that like you might have just had a really bad day or your boyfriend broke up with you or whatever and forget that piece because I'm so on focus about where we need to go, what we're doing. And I think assistant principals and probably principals too, part of our job is just very chaotic. Like you just really don't know what's coming that day. And sometimes it can be hard to operate in that chaos because for me, when things get chaotic and I don't have a plan, I tend to become like a general and like take charge and like all the things. And forget that, you know, there are people who might feel sad or angry or whatever. So for me, trying to focus on like the humans that I'm working with and how they feel. Like I'm glancing at some music for like counselors and like you have all the feelings and know about all the feelings. I forget a lot of times. So for me, that is definitely one of the big struggles.
I can relate that. Go ahead, Scott.
One challenge I have, I talked to Wilson about this last week and he begged me to share a story I'm not going to share because it's very incriminating to me.
I was going to allow some time.
I don't know. If he watches this, there's a camera back there. If he makes me tell it next week, I'll tell it next week. Our life group did an activity, and I never spoke up in our life group about this either, but we were, after a lesson in here about journaling, how you live missionally, we decided that for the 2 weeks between our two life group meetings, we would journal how the ways that we did that, the way that we saw Jesus, the way that we were Jesus, and all this stuff. And I've just kept finding stories of where I was not acting like Jesus, and it's really hard for me to find the Jesus story. So I feel like the challenge for me is I get put into a lot of situations where I am mean, and I say mean loosely.
You have to lay the hammer down.
Yes, and not always with kids. Like kids are easy.
Right.
You can be real straightforward with a kid, and they come back and they're fine and they're good, and you go on. You probably have strengthened your relationship by showing the care you have for him by being so straightforward. But I have parents that come in hot and upset, and they're cussing and they're calling me this and they're calling this school this and this, and I don't have a high tolerance for that. Or teachers or community members, and they're all up in your business. And so I have, I'm really good at being mean, and so sometimes I struggle with that being a challenge. And I was telling Wilson, like, I kept thinking of what are my challenges, and I go home thinking, you know, do they go home and say he's a jerk or he's too much this, he's too much that, he shouldn't have said that. And I've talked to my wife, I've talked to coworkers about that, and I like the response, and so I'll share it. You know, as being a Christian doesn't mean you're a doormat. And looking like Jesus doesn't always mean that you sit and you just take and you take and you take. And one thing about my job is you're in charge of safety, you're in charge of security, not just of kids, but of protecting, like, I'm protecting a faculty, I'm protecting a student body, and I'm protecting the integrity of what we do. And sometimes that means I have to tell someone, stop. You're not going to damage this person, you're not going to damage me, you're not going to damage the integrity of my building. And you will not do this, and you will leave, or you will, and so that I feel like is a challenge when I reflect on moments like that, and I think, that's not me being Jesus, or that's not me being missional. But I think that is also where it can look very different, and depending on what your role is. Sometimes to maybe not to that parent you weren't looking at, but to that teacher who you were kind of defending, or to that kid whose future you're protecting. That's Jesus for them. And so that's where you get stuck in between the purposes of two very different, and you have to understand perceptions and everybody's perspective. And so
absolutely. Because sometimes long view, have the right long view, really the right answer right now is to turn over tables. You mentioned that. Jesus turn over tables. Come in here and say, hey, bunch of idiots. Y'all just pull yourselves together, right? I mean, sometimes choice words have to be used because I'm so passionate about the success of this child, right? Saying, and my thing is with teachers, right? If I see, because hey, newsflash, there are sometimes some good teachers. I know we don't like to talk about that, but not every teacher is really, really good. And part of the administrator's job is setting a standard of excellence. This is the bar. You either meet this or you stay here with short. Right? I mean, and I say that as lovingly as possible to my teachers and say, I don't want your stay here short. It's a pain to hire people. But I need you to join me in having the right kind of standard, because these kids matter. Every single one of these kids that walk in the door matter. And so I should expect a lot from myself. I should expect a lot from you to do that. So I think that is a challenge. I would agree with that, because you don't want to come across as unfeeling or insensitive to what people are going through. But you have to balance that with, here's the standard. We're going to meet that. That's what I want for my kid. We always say, if it's not good enough for my child, it's not good enough. Right? I mean, you always have to have that in your mind, because education is a deeply personal endeavor. We're impacting kids' future. So, I'm going to take about 2 minutes. I just want to, if anybody has a really good story from that you want it's just, we've talked about some of the heavier topics. Our job is a lot of fun too. I mean, it is a lot of fun. I mean, these kids say some crazy things. You cannot make this step up. The one I like to tell is, and I heard this from a guy named Danny Hill years ago. He said, for the elementary school, you can always tell the kindergartners from the first graders. You can always tell them. The kindergartners, like, they don't know where they're going. Great big school. This place is amazing. And then a guy walks by. I walk by, and the first grader looks at him and goes, hey, there's the principal. No. I don't know what that means. And the first grader goes, yeah, there's the principal of the United States of America. Stuff like that happens all the time. It's really, really hilarious. I come home and, man, we share some funny stories. We laugh. And we remind our teachers, you have to laugh at that stuff, man. You gotta. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Wilson wanted me to be sure it covered. I didn't say it in any of my questions. To me, teaching was a means to an end. I would have the same schedule as my kids. I could be a stay-at-home mom. It was just a means to an end, and then I fell in love with it. So to the mamas who work, your mission can be at work as much as it is at home. Because I accidentally fell in love with the job, that then I had to go part-time because it was best for our family, and that was best, and it's been wonderful, and I'm so thankful. And then God hits you with twins, and you need to stay home all the time, and it's going to be great and wonderful and beautiful, and I'm so excited. But I'm sad to leave a job that I thought, had you asked me 6 years ago, well, of course I'll quit when I have kids. That's what I want to do. But then I fell in love, and I found a mission. So working moms, it is okay to have a mission outside of your home and still be a really good mama when you come home. You can do both.
Yeah, know that I just can't help it. I gotta praise his name. Listen, there was a man a long time ago at the gate called